Hello and welcome to Cindershadow Gaming. I'm your host, Cindershadow, and today we gotta talk about Strixhaven. Well, first thing I'm going to touch on is Cosmetic Enigma Sage. So, we're going to go over some of the abilities. I'm going to touch on certain cards, but ultimately this set is turning out to be inherently busted from what I've seen. The Cosmetic Enigma Sage, with her giving her abilities to all planeswalkers, is going to be busted. It's going to make historic and modern absolutely ridiculously overpowered. This is, once again, we've got blue-green controlling the way things are going to be with these sets, and now this Sage is going to make things even worse. You're going to have all the War of the Spark planeswalkers that never had an uptick now have an uptick. They don't have an uptick for a reason, and this card is giving them that uptick, and you're going to get these effects over and over and over again. This was something we said it should be harder to do that, and now they've done it. They put it on another planeswalker, giving all her abilities away. It's going to be a 5-color rainbow planeswalker deck, inherently busted because of this first ability that this card has. With each other planeswalker you control has loyalty abilities of Cosmetic Enigma Sage. So all planeswalkers now get a +2. +2 scry 1. If you have a way of infinite looping your planeswalkers, you're going to be able to scry your entire deck and stack your deck the way you want it. What is it? Jace Mirror Mage makes a copy of himself, and he can keep making copies of himself. So if there's a way to keep doing this now, you're going to be able to keep dropping Jace Mirror Mage and scrying your entire deck, and now you're able to stack your entire deck from the get-go, and that's going to be inherently broken. At least Sahelian the Fadar Guardian combo is gone. It doesn't exist, but I couldn't imagine if it was. The -X, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X 1/1 counters on it. And now you're going to give every planeswalker on your side of the board a way to defend themselves right off the bat. So now you need some sort of evasion to actually hit them directly. No, this giving every single planeswalker a way to defend themselves, you're going to see planeswalkers come out of the woodwork that are not very good because they didn't have ways of protecting themselves and they just died very quickly. This is now giving them the effect to be able to defend themselves and is going to make them way better. -H, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this planeswalker, exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. You're going to target the ultimatums at this point that are in there that inherently create more free casting. So now this card, you throw it in any deck with 2 or 3 different planeswalkers, and you're going to steamroll anything out there. We've already got the Prismatic Bridge that lets you play these planeswalkers from your deck for free. Now this card is just going to enable that even worse. We're going to see too many things here very quickly that are just inherently busted because of this one card. It's going to have to be one of the pieces that they take out of Simic at this point. Simic is getting all the crazy stuff. We had Oko, we had Euro, Scoot Swarm. You might as well call it Simic at this point because you're able to sit there and protect it and get all the lands you want, and it just creates this infestation of cards that need to be completely torched with a flamethrower at this point. Professor Onyx is very interesting, seeing it's a Liliana planeswalker. I've already seen some other story spotlights where this looks like she's trying to hide who she is, but then she can't really run from her past. And the one card that I did see, she had, it was the War of the Spark Liliana with Gideon on her shoulder and all this other stuff. And so we'll see where that goes. Inherently, the card is 6 mana, so it's not really going to be that viable, except that you can mana ramp till day's end, and mana cost does not matter right now. Magecraft is going to be an absolutely busted nightmare of an ability. Whenever you cast and copy an instant spell or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. You cast 2 ops with this, and now you're doing it an 8-point life swing. If you're able to storm off, and it really looks like they're pushing the storm mechanic, even though that's like an 11 on the storm scale. The scale is rated after the damn thing, and they keep pushing this mechanic set after set after set that's just going to enable things beyond what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Thousand Year Storm resurface in this set, or something even greater where they've got some artifact that enables storm. It's going to be busted, and we're going to see so much more come out of this. And we're seeing with the Mystical Archive cards, there is storm cards in that. Thank God they're not standard legal. +1, you lose 1 life. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 in your hand, the rest in your graveyard. -3, each opponent sacrifices a creature that is the greatest power among creatures that player controls. And -8, each opponent discards a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. That's not anything crazy. That will probably be nuts in Commander. I don't have a problem with any of the abilities. It's the global effect that she has with the Magecraft that is going to be inherently busted in the long run. Now we've got the 5 commanders for the commander decks here. I don't believe they're going to be standard legal, but don't quote me on that. I still think they're commander legal. The biggest one out of them all is a Zafi Thunder Conductor. There's a huge typo on it. I covered this in its own video. But for 4 mana, you get a 1/4 Human Shaman whenever, and he's got Magecraft again. Whenever you cast this copy of an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. If it's 5 mana value or greater, you get a 4/4 blue and red elemental. If it is 10 mana value or greater, Zafi Thunder Collector, not the Conductor, the Collector, deals 10 damage. So that's your typo on that card. The other ones aren't really too crazy. Remember, these are commanders, so they can kind of push the power level a little bit more. The other one with Onyx and Nev Twin Casters with the Ward 2. Ward is one of the new keyword abilities that they've made out there. It's an ability that's been around for quite a while in the game, where it's whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability opponent controls, counter it unless that player pays 2. So it's subjective evasion to spells, and that 2 mana just giving you the increased cost. It's not that bad of a thing. I like Ward as an ability. I think it's a lot more fair than like Hexproof, but ultimately this card, the Ward isn't what's broken on it. It's if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. Once again, we're in Simic, and we're pushing the power level again. One card that I did get right in my previous speculation video, we've got Will and Ronan, Scholar Planeswalkers. Their first ability, it's on both cards. Instant sorcery spells cast cost 1 less to cast. That's going to be busted. I'm sorry, you cannot do this. You can also put down 1 of each copy of this, 1 of each side, meaning your instant and sorcery spells cost 2 less to cast. So there's certain things I've seen with this set where instant or sorcery spells are colorless in nature, and this is going to make that completely go away. You're not going to have a casting cost for these spells, and it's going to be very busted in the long run. Their abilities are nothing too crazy. The biggest one is -7 on Will with exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exile this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. They don't have haste, so it's not really going to be that big of a game changer. You still get a round to react to them. If they had haste, this would be a completely busted open ability, so it's not that bad. Ultimately, you're probably going to target your lands late game and just be able to swing for the win the next round if they stick around. That's the idea for it. If you find a way to give them haste, you're probably going to run your opponent over very quickly. Also on Rowan's, the emblem that you get where you pay 2 and you get to copy a spell, that's just going to enable more Magecraft and the storm mechanic going forward. So it's going to be very interesting to see if these do get picked up. Easily, probably you put this in cycling or in a Spells Matter deck. So we'll see where things go with that. Dragon Guard Elite, you get +1/+1 on encounter for every instant or sorcery. That's not inherently that crazy. Archmaid Emeritus. This card is going to be ridiculous when it comes to a blue counter deck. You cast your counter and you replace it with the draw card. Like that's the problem that I see with this card. So ultimately that draw card is going to make it very, very difficult to be able to stop a counter deck with this card on the board. Eager First Year. It's a 2/2 that's got the Magecraft. It gets +1 powers, +0 toughness. Could have just made it prowess, in all honesty. The ability already exists. Maybe with the white double strike stuff that you got going on there, it might be something crazy, but I don't see that ultimately. Professor of Symbology and Pop Quiz. They both have an ability on them called Learn. This is the newest thing that we're seeing. And Learn equates to a lesson. And what it does is you may reveal a lesson card from you own from outside the game and put it into your hand, or discard a card and draw a card. Why is there no downside to going into your sideboard for a free card? This makes it inherently busted. Now you've got a 3-mana casting spell that's going to make and give you 2 free cards. So it replaces itself and gets you another card. It thins your deck, and you're able to go into your sideboard and pick out a card. And at this point, what I've seen with the lessons, their versatility, and you're going to be able to pick and choose which ones matter for your deck. And now it doesn't matter. Like, this is making best of one play in Arena even more busted, because sideboards didn't matter in best of one play, and now they really do, and they shouldn't, because you're just loading it up with 15 extra cards that you're able to bring in from outside the game that cannot be stopped or taken out of the deck. They're in your sideboard. Yeah, there's so many things wrong with this learn lesson thing that is going to make it very difficult to deal with, especially the ones I showed later on here. Pest Summoning is a sample of a lesson, but the one that is kind of more, this is the one I was talking about with Liliana Confront the Pass. For 1 black and X, you get a sorcery lesson. So this is one of those cards you can have in your sideboard, and then you can learn and get this lesson. Choose one. Return target Planeswalker card with mana value X or less from your graveyard. Thank God, your graveyard, not your opponent's, to the battlefield. At least it's X. You're paying 1 more to get a Planeswalker back from your graveyard. That's not inherently that bad. It doesn't target a creature. It's only a Planeswalker. Remove twice X loyalty counters from a Planeswalker an opponent controls. So if you end up against Super Friends, this will be easily be a way to get rid of things, or you bring a Planeswalker back that your opponent got rid of. So we'll see where things go. Once again, we got a couple more Magecraft ones. This one makes it unblockable. This one, the Human Cleric with the Lorehold Apprentice, whenever you cast or a copy, an instant or sorcery spell in a turn, spirit creatures you control tap it. This creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. I don't see that being inherently anything crazy, and it's an off color from spirits. I guess there is some white spirits, but I don't see this being anything crazy. Okay, another thing that we did get right is the check lands, or whatever these are, the reveal lands. So we've got 5 of them. They're all called Snarls, and I previously covered that it was the Shadows over Innistrad set of lands. They only had the allied ones, and these are the enemy versions of those lands, where you reveal a swamp or a forest in this case, and this comes into play into the battlefield untapped. So they're going to be very good, especially alongside the triomes or the snow split lands that we do have out there, because they're named each. So these cards are going to be very valuable in standard right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if those start off $10 to $15 quite easily, and in foils being upwards 20 to 30. So we'll see where those go. Okay, so we've got one lesson in here. Expanded Antomony. 3 colorless. This is my problem with some of these lessons. They have made them completely generic mana, meaning they're not tied to any color, but they're color pie breaks in this sense. Put 2 1/1 encounters on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. That is solely a white ability that now breaks the color pie and goes into any color. Thank God this is just a 1/1 counter and not really going to matter that much, but it's going to be pretty nuts. Some of the other ones that I saw first day of class, like these are kind of whatever. Flamethrower Sinatra. One red, one generic, discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery spell this way, it deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Thank God that wasn't player, because that would have been inherently busted. You discard a high casted sorcery or instant spell and you deal so much damage to your opponent. The flip side of that with the Torrent Sculptor, 2 blue and 2, it's a 2/2 with Ward 2, which 2/2 for 4, you're not getting the greatest, but when it enters the battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to half the card's mana value rounded up. Thank God it was half. So a 6 mana spell, you only get 3 counters, it becomes a 5/5 for 4. I think the trade-off there is pretty decent. So Necessary Dean of Expression. This was a very strange card. When I first saw it, I was thinking it was Kefka from Final Fantasy VI, just because it looks like the clown motif that Kefka had and the way that they're backing. It really did, to me, look like they put Kefka on a card. And I was like, what? Are we getting a Final Fantasy mix over? Like, what's going on here? At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top card from each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it was mana of any color to cast those spells. This was, I believe, a Gonti ability, but it was only your opponent's library, and now you get it for both. It's 5 mana for a 4/4. Whenever you cast a spell, put a 1/1 counter on Dean of Expression. Like, come on. It doesn't need that much more. For 5 mana, that was already a huge ability. The flip side of this is Dean of Perfection. For 3 blue, you get a 2/2 tap. You may exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it. And when the last hone counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. Thank God they left that you had to cast it and it wasn't a free cast. 4 less, you know, if there's some big spells, this could be something, but it's not going to be that crazy. But being able to pick a card, steal another card off the top of your opponent's library and being able to cast it, we're seeing that more and more in red lately. It's pretty nuts. I know people are talking about Valentine or Dean of Vane with Dean of Root. So the Dean of Root is a 4/4. Whenever you gain life, pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample. What? Why is this a thing? Put first strike on a lifelink creature and then swing. You just need to find a way to gain 1 life, and your board is going to run over your opponent. This is not that good. Well, this is great, but it's not that good for the meta. It's 4 mana for a 4/4. This ultimately should have been a 2/2 like the other ones we've already seen. So we'll see where this lands, because that looks inherently busted to me. The Dean of Vane for 1 black. He's a 1/1 vampire warlock, menace lifelink. So you're running both of these. One creature's got lifelink, one does not, but one enables the other. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Sure. The lifelink is more important there. Study counters flying. Yeah, that's nothing crazy. There's, yeah, we've got the new Elder Dragons there. He's worth talking about. 1 black, 1 white, 3 generic, 2/5 Elder Dragon. Flying double strike, and so he's a 4/5. At the beginning of your combat on each of your turns, you may choose to. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a 1/1 counter on each creature they control. This is probably going to run alongside Rankle, and you're going to force your opponent to draw cards until they die. Pretty much. That's where I see that going. Okay, Introduction to Prophecy. 3 colorless for a scry 2, then draw a card. As a sorcery lesson. So you put this outside the game. This goes into any deck. This is a blue ability. This is not a colorless ability. This should have been blue. There should be a actual mana value to this, not just generic mana. Being able to have this for 3 mana, putting it into any deck now, and you're able to reduce that cost to nothing, it's going to be inherently busted. I don't like these lessons. I don't like this idea that it shouldn't be able to be sideboarded like that. Introduction to Annihilation for 5 mana. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. This one's not as bad because we've got Meteor Golem. We've had other things in the past where it's generic mana for 5 mana that exiles a card. So this is more something you'll see in draft than I think you would see in your sideboard. However, people ran Meteor Golem in their sideboard to get rid of targets, and this is just going to create another utility for that you are easy able to grab. So, and once again, it's completely generic, so you're able to reduce that cost down next to nothing very quickly, and I'm sorry, it's not going to be that good. Okay, so we've got then a bunch of the archive cards. This is Japanese version of Time Warp. I said this was going to be in the set, and then we have the Time Warp right there. I knew that was going to be there. I don't even know what this one is. Oh, Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt in a standard product. That'll be nice to pick up. I do want Lightning Bolt. Come on, you can load. There we go. Oh, there's the Lightning Bolt. And then we have a new Duress, the Japanese version. I really do like the Japanese versions. Channel being in a set like this, that's going to be interesting. I hope to see Fireball because I want to be able to channel Fireball someone in a match for draft. That would be absolutely hilarity. Strategic Planning, Counterspell, another one. I believe Counterspell they've said it won't be on Arena or in Historic. They're going to replace it with something else. This one is Shock for 2 damage. That's kind of neat, I guess. Abundant Harvest. This is an important card. Abundant Harvest is not in Strixhaven. Where have you seen this card before? It's not even... This card doesn't exist. This card only exists right now in the Strixhaven Mythical Archives. This is actually a preview of Modern Horizons 2. This card is in Modern Horizons 2, and it was placed into the Mystical Archives as something extra special. So Abundant Harvest for 1 green. It's a sorcery. Choose land or non-land. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. In an all-lands deck, and you can put one other spell, this will find that spell very quickly, or vice versa. There's some stuff with this that's going to bust things wide open. I'm not sure what they're going to be yet, but there's something that comes to mind is probably a Charred Belcher scenario or Thrasis Oracle or something like that. We're going to see something get completely busted up with that. Blue Sun, Day of Judgment is pretty much Wrath of God. I don't know why they just didn't go Wrath of God. I guess Day of Judgment hasn't been printed in a while. Kosian Grid, which is split second. That's going to be interesting. Weather the Storm, this is where I'm talking about. They've got Storm cards in the Mystical Archives. Thank God they're not going to be at standard. Growth Spiral, Cultivate, Dark Ritual. That Dark Ritual's pretty sick looking. Inquisition of Kozilek. That's a very important card. That'll be fun in the Mystical Archives. At least there is one of these in each. If you're getting the collector's boosters, you have a high chance of getting the Japanese versions as well. Village Rites is pretty sick looking. Mind's Desire looks crazy. Putrefy. Harmonize is interesting. There's something off about it. I'm not quite sure where I can pinpoint that yet. This is Teferi's Protection in the Japanese version, I believe. Memory Lapse, that's pretty crazy looking. Counter target spell. If the spell is countered this way, put it on top of owner's library instead of into that player's graveyard. That's all right. What is this one? Crux of Fate. Destroy all dragon creatures. Destroy all non-dragon creatures. Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of cool there. Is that Ugin versus Nicobolus? I do really like the art of those two fighting. Infuriate, Primal Kalan, and Thrill of Possibility. Those are pretty sick looking. I like them all. So now we have another lesson card here with Environmental Sciences. For 2 mana, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, you gain 2 life. Why? Like, lesson, it's going to be free casted, I can tell you right now. Field trip, search your library for basic force. Thank God they said basic force. Put it into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle, and then you learn. So you then go get a free card from your sideboard. So now you get a free forest and a free card. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Guiding Voice, sorcery, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and then you learn. Study Break, instant, tap up to 2 target creatures, and then you learn as an instant. So this is something you do before your turn. We're back into the Mystic Archive stuff. Approach of the Second Sun, are you kidding? So I've had this happen. It was during a pre-release, someone had 2 Approach of the Second Sun. If someone has 2 of the Approach of the Second Sun in their pre-release kit or in their draft, I highly doubt that they open both. Thank God this is mythic. My God. I had this happen in pre-release where someone had 2 Approach of the Second Sun in their pre-release kit, and I got completely destroyed because that's what they went with. I'm like, did you actually open 2 copies, or did you have a friend pass one to you? It was very suspect, and I've seen levels of cheating in pre-release that is absolutely beyond anything that is possible. Throne of Eldraine came out, I did the pre-release, and the one guy I was playing, I beat him the first game. The second game, he pulls an alternate art Oko and an alternate art Great Hinge and puts them both on the board. The chances of that is so slim to none. And then I watched the guy, after my match, turn around and buy another booster box and completely open it at the table. So, you know, people are doing these things that it blows my mind why you would bother. It's a game. I want to have a fun filled game and not have to sit there fighting with people because they want to sit there and cheat and feel that they are deserve that. So, you know, little sour with Approach of the Second Sun on certain things like that. Faithless Looting is a very interesting looking card. Out of all of them, this one stands out that it is just goddamn awful. What did you do? It looks like someone photoshopped this and put it on there. Wait a second. I can probably do something very similar to this. There we go. I fixed it. I made one myself. I did this in about 10 minutes. I'm sorry. It's not something that is that hard to do. I could have Photoshopped, put a little bit more time in it, and I probably would have came out with something even better. But I'm sorry, your Photoshop of that card, how did this get approved? Like, seriously, how did Faithless Looting get approved for the art? It's absolutely I'm very disappointed to see something like that, and it would have been nice to see something crazy. Like, the background of it with the stained art looks amazing, but then it looks like it's been completely ruined by the Photoshop that I've seen here today. Anyway, as we continue, Doom of Fate, Gift of the States, Lightning Helix is in there too, Agonizing Remorse, back up. We'll have to cut that. Agonizing Remorse, Mizzix's Mastery, Divine Gambit. So why is Divine Gambit one of these? Oh my god. That card is just jank. Exile target artifact or creature or enchantment card an opponent controls. That player puts a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield. Why? When this was spoiled in Keldheim, people were like, this is not a good removal card, and it's just going to give your opponent an advantage, especially if they have cards or a way to draw a card. I don't see it. very interesting art. I do like a lot of the arts of the archive. Just that Faithless Looting is absolutely god awful. It's god awful. It's not something that's going to be good. I I am embarrassed as a Magic the Gathering player to see this lack of detail in a piece of art. It's good on the artist because they're going to get noticed over this, so good job. Anyway, guys, that's about what I got so far of the spoilers. Hopefully I explained some of the mechanics and stuff like that very well. We're going to have more spoilers, so hopefully I can redo another one of these in a week when the rest of the set is spoiled. Anyway, guys, if you did like this, do like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. What do you think is great? What do you think is horrible? What do you think of the set so far? Is it going to be a knockout home run, or is this one going to tank and burn? Until next time, you guys take care, and we will see you all next time.